What's up, Exeters? Today we've exited off Whitby, England. You may be asking yourself, why Whitby? I don't even know what Whitby is, man. Well, this is a special place. We're gonna get into that, unless you want to tell them now.
Dracula.
That's right. This is the birthplace of Bram Stoker, Dracula. This is where the man, the legend, got the inspiration for the legendary Dracula. Join us on this adventure.
Hello there, I'm Tony. I own this apartment, Bram's View, and it was in this building that Bram Stoker stayed 130 years ago when he came to Whitby on holiday. He stayed here for 3 weeks. First week on his own, he stayed here. It was a guest house run by Mrs. Vesey, so he would have sort of stayed throughout the whole building. Part of it would have been bedrooms, part sitting rooms, part dining area, so we'd have sort of rented out the whole building along with some other guests. He had a week here on his own, and then he was joined 2 weeks later by his wife Florence and his son Noel, and they stayed here for 3 weeks in total. So it was during that time that Bram was doing a lot of research and coming up with his ideas for the novel Dracula. So a lot of events throughout the town, such as a shipwreck, was used for inspiration for the Dimitri that crashed into Whitby, where Dracula arrived, as he arrived as a dog and ran up the 199 steps. And also, Bram used this supposedly as a location where Lucy's mother and Mina stayed when they were in Whitby for certain chapters in the book. So quite a lot of Bram's stay in Whitby was direct influence for events within the novel. Also, while he was staying in Whitby, he did a lot of research at the museum here, which is now a fish and chip shop called the Quayside. It was originally the museum, and there he was doing research about Wallachia, and he first came across the name Dracula, supposedly, so that was obviously a big inspiration. He was originally just going to call the character Count Vampire, which would have been a bit naff, so luckily he came across a far more exciting name, Dracula. So we've got some links with the Stoker estate, so we've had various members of the Stoker family staying here, so Dacre Stoker, who's part American, part Canadian, is sort of like the most active member of the Stoker estate. He's written sort of sequels to Dracula. I think he's in Whitby at the moment, actually, isn't he, doing a tour?
I think he is, yeah.
To do with it. So Dacre's stayed here a few times. We have links with him, and a guy called Robin McCaw, who's the most direct descendant of Bram. He's a great-great-great-grandson of Bram Stoker. And then we've had various sort of other filmmakers going on. I don't know if you heard of Mark Gatiss. He did a documentary here for the BBC about Dracula.
That's cool.
And I mean, we're lucky to the Stoker estate sent us a picture. That's Florence. That's Bram's wife.
Oh, okay.
She had a relationship with Oscar Wilde, didn't she?
Yes, he wanted to marry her.
Yeah, so when Bram stayed here, what people did when they stayed in these sort of guest houses, they sort of had they sort of had separate floors, didn't they? So one floor would be the bedrooms, and the sitting room where they'd sort of sit around and read or whatever, do their activities, would be on another floor, and then the servants' quarters would be right up at the top, and another floor would be sort of like the dining area. So as far as we know, this was the
Probably bedrooms
or the sort of sitting room areas where he'd write. So
nice.
So he would have been in here working.
Working on his masterpiece.
It's great fun. Some weird stuff goes on. The way the book's written, there's a few things changed in it, but basically Lucy and Mina and Lucy's mother where they're staying in Whitby is here. That's the way it's written in the book. Sort of, even though he sort of has it that they're looking out over the harbour, he's saying that they stayed on the Crescent, doesn't he? So.
And when Bram stayed here, there was, I think it was sort of like a family that stayed in the building next door, and they had 2 young girls, and they were supposed to be the inspiration for Lucy and Mina. And they stayed next door to him, so he'd seen them about Whitby and talked to them, and that's where he got that idea of the 2 young ladies together.
And I wonder if they knew that they were the inspiration as characters.
Right. What else can we
We've
show
also had a group of ghost hunters here, haven't we?
Yeah.
They came on Goth weekend, and we were very tired when they came, so we weren't that interested, but they were here for hours having their little seance and picking up on little characters and stuff.
They reckon they got in touch with all sorts of spirits.
Oh, they saw Bram. He was only here for 3 weeks, but apparently they saw Bram and some captain.
Yeah, we weren't quite as good.
We were having a lovely... They were going, oh, can you feel the cold? And I went, yeah, I've got terrible drafty windows here.
There's some nice rooms.
Tried not to make it too gothic.
Yeah, just for emergent scenes for guests staying here, we've got the vampire hunting kit in that couple doing.
Oh, nice.
The unfortunate they've lost the key.
So the Royal Hotel claims that Bram Stoker stayed here while he was writing Dracula, but that's actually not true. However, he did come here to write, but not stay. He would sit in these front windows over here, look out over the water and the scenery, and pull inspiration for his story. Right here on the end, down here of all these benches that you can sit out and look out over the harbor, we have Bram Stoker's bench that he would often sit on to get inspiration. There's even a plaque dedicated to him. It says, "The view from this spot inspired Bram Stoker to use Whitby as a setting of part of his world-famous novel, Dracula."
And screaming to stop the devil following you through.
It's a really good place to get fish and chips, and which we're going to get some. This location was also the former library, which Bram Stoker would come do lots of research. This is the top floor. As you can see, they still have some of the library books in the cases. Still holding some of that library feel. So when Bram Stoker was writing Dracula, he took inspiration from things he researched and places he actually seen with his own eyes.
Like this town right here that you can't see because the fog, it literally was sunny and the fog has thickened as we have started this video. Maybe he's coming back. Who knows?
So during his stay in Whitby, he obviously pulled inspiration for a few scenes in the story Dracula that he wrote. One being the boat, the Demeter, in which Dracula is in dog formation and jumps off after a crash. Now, in the story, the boat would have came up over there.
You probably can't see it because it's foggy. Just in case you can't, their waves are crashing right there on a flat reef.
And a lot of boats, that's where it would have hit the reef and came up onto the shore over here in this area.
Right over there.
Now, the stone walls that you see separating the two were not here
there
at the time of Bram Stoker's visit and his writing of the story. So in the book, the Demeter is a Russian sailboat that the Coast Guard actually sees kind of just like going aimlessly out in the water until it runs up on the sandbar due from the storm that takes place. So we're actually going to take you out to sea on a sailboat so you yourself can get the feel of the Demeter out in the water.
Welcome aboard the Bark Endeavour. Now sit back, relax and enjoy the voyage. It was originally known as the Earl of Pembroke. It was built as a Whitby cat or collie, designed to carry coal from the northeast of England down to London. A little bit about our famous Captain Cook himself. James Cook was born in Martin, Cleveland.
On the Demeter, there were crates, and they were thought to have clay in them, but no, Dracula hid in one of these crates. And one by one, the workers on the ship slowly started disappearing. So the captain thought it was the first mate because the first mate was acting so crazy about everything. And the men claimed there's something on the ship. So they searched the ship and couldn't find anything until it dwindled down, and the first mate was like, he's in one of these crates, he's in one of these boxes. And he found something that terrified him so much, there was a look of horror, he threw himself over the side of the Demeter. So the captain therefore kept a logbook of everything that happened on the ship. Well, in his final moments, tied himself to the wheel with a crucifix. Needless to say, whenever this ship crashed, due to the storm that had been coming in, there was nobody left but a large black dog.
Alright guys, the ship would have came in and would have crashed right there on that beach in front of you. To which every member on the ship were dead. The black dog, also Dracula, would have jumped off and ran way up there.
With its modern life process. And as the name suggests, this was connected with the great fishing and whaling industry which thrived in Whitby from the 18th century onwards.
The first account or telling that we get of Whitby is when Jonathan has met with Count Dracula and they're discussing like his business matters, and Jonathan happens to look down at some papers and he sees the name Whitby written on some paperwork. But our first putting us in the scene, so to speak, is basically when you get to chapter 6 and it's with Mina. Now Mina describes sitting on a bench and the ruins of Whitby Abbey and the church separating the town and the site you see from Whitby Abbey. Now there are two cliffs that separate like on each side of the water. The one we are currently on is the East Cliff. Over there where Mina and Lucy are staying is the West Cliff. The way Bram describes this from Mina's point of view in the book. She says, "This is the most noble ruin of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits," which is really true. This is it's one of the prettiest things we've seen since we've been here.
Yeah, can you imagine what it was like when this place was whole? Like when it was completely, you know, I bet it was a sight.
So in his novel, he also states, from Mina's perspective, that there is also a white lady, a legend of a white lady often seen in one of the windows.
Always the white lady.
Always the white lady. I think she should change it up. Maybe make it a different color. Maybe like
A purple lady.
well, yeah, fuchsia lady.
Huh?
A hot pink lady. So this is a nice place to visit, not too expensive. It's touristy without feeling very touristy. It's not overcrowded. You can find spots where you can be alone to get some good pictures. And currently, as we're here right now, all of the pheasants have their babies, and we were warned not to get too close to them because didn't want any pecking going on and attacking us.
Gonna get pecked. Get away from my babies.
But we couldn't have gotten a better day to come up here to see this.
Yeah, the sun's out. It's a little windy, but that's to be expected. It is Whitby and it's right on the coast, but as long as you got some kind of jacket, hat, and hoodie, you're all right.
So like I said before, in his description, a church separates the town from the ruins of Whitby Abbey. So literally it's just a short walk, thankfully all downhill as of now, to the church that we're going to show you. This is the church that Bram Stoker describes as the St. Mary's Parish. And in the book it says between it and the town is another church, the parish one, round, which is a big graveyard all full of tombstones. Now, if there's benches, which I see one over there, but we're gonna look for more, this is where Mina would often come to write. This was her favorite spot to come. She would often come talk to an older gentleman by the name of Mr. Swells, and he describes and talks about several names that are in the churchyard, but as you can see, like a lot of the tombstones, like the words on them are unreadable at this point. There was rumors at one time that I had read that there was a headstone in here for Dracula, but we've asked some locals and they said that's not true, and they informed us, do not go in the church and ask where Dracula's headstone is, and that if we go inside of the church we will see a sign that says, do not ask.
Do not ask.
Thanks for zooming in on my crusty face.
Well, you were supposed to say it again, and you didn't. Unique that way.
Okay, so we managed to find a bench, and this may or may not be the bench that Mina would have sat on. There are a couple of different ones, but nonetheless, this gives us a beautiful view, which I could only imagine as being something similar to what she would have had. So in the book, she describes this as, this is to my mind the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbor and all up the bay. So like I said, this is where she would come to write, work, and this is also a bench that whenever Lucy got into town kind of grew to be one of her favorite spots also. They would often come here and sit together. And whenever Dracula comes into Whitby and Lucy sleepwalks, she is found here on this bench. And Mina sees a dark shadow standing over her. And when she gets to her on this bench, she's slumped over.
And as you can see, she would have ran from way over there. Down across the water and up 199 steps. So you got a couple benches right over there, and there's one right there, right in front of the church.
You gotta think how maybe impossible it was, because if Mina was coming from over there where they were staying, searching for Lucy, who had slept, she was sleepwalking, that she could see way over here, because this is where she suspected her of being, was on the bench. So that's a long way. Like, you've got some freaking eagle eyes to see from way over there to here, to see a dark shadow standing behind me, looking like he was hunched over her, in essence biting her. So once she sees that, that's when she takes off and runs over here to get to Lucy. Yeah.
I don't feel so well.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm not Dracula.
Blah, 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 blah. I don't say blah, 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 blah.
And this is also the bench that Mr. Swales, or the area, one of these benches that Mr. Swales would have been found after Dracula had arrived to Whitby with his neck broken. We're about to descend the 199 steps, which is much better than climbing them. But if you refer back to the book, it says the steps are a great feature on the place, talking about the church. They lead from the town to the church. There are hundreds of them. I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. No, she's So as you can see, they do indeed wind around. I can say the steps coming down were not nearly as bad. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to be like going up, but I don't feel like they'll be as bad as maybe like steps in Edinburgh, because
they're short.
You could take like two at a time, whereas Edinburgh were like small and really steep.
Yeah, these are more like, I think after you get past this part right here, they're more shallow and short than deep and steep, you know, more of a
Yeah.
incline.
All right, so we have reached the town.
I'm going to talk to you about a very important thing here in Whitby. Aside from Dracula, aside from the good, delicious fish and chips, the nice ale, this is probably the most important thing that you could possibly do here in Whitby. It's very serious. Now, this is top stuff right here, okay? But when you're here, you got to get the sugar donuts. Just saying. It's in a little thing. I don't even know the name of the shop. I think there's multiple places that have it. They come in a little white bag. I don't have mine because I already ate all 4 of them. They come in a little white bag. It's 4 donuts about yay big. Covered in nice sugar. Not powdered sugar now. Sugar. And they're fresh. Freshly made. And they're so delicious.
In the book, Lucy is a sleepwalker. So Mina locks the door to the bedroom that she shares with Lucy at night to try to keep her from getting out while she's asleep. It works until one night when the bed next to her is empty and Lucy is gone. She searches the house for her, nowhere to be found. She finds a door unlocked. So basically she runs to these cliffs here.
Right there.
And that's the West Cliff. So you have to imagine she's up there because just beyond that is the Crescent where they stay and where Bram Stoker stayed during his time in Whitby when he wrote that part of Dracula. So imagine you're standing here and looking over there.
All the way up there where the castle is.
That is where we were earlier on the benches that Lucy deemed as her favorite spot in Whitby. So this is where she would have seen Lucy sitting on the bench with a dark figure behind her. Now, that's some good vision.
Yeah. And I know it looks a little further because we are using a wide angle lens, but even from where we're standing, which is right here on the harbor, between that spot and that spot up there is a pretty freaking long ways. Even without this wide angle lens, if you were just looking at it like we were, you'd be hard pressed to see somebody sitting on the bench from one side to the other, let alone a dark figure behind her.
Right. So when she sees Lucy, she immediately takes off to try to get to her. So in essence, she would have came down some of these stairs from this west cliff, ran all the way to that bridge.
Right there.
Crossed the bridge over to the east cliff area, went up the flight of stairs that you see people going up to get to Lucy.
Yeah, that's not doable. That's a long run, even for someone in like athletic condition.
A lot of stairs.
You're talking about a lot of that running downhill across, and then a lot running back up a steep hill.
Right.
That's just not doable. I mean, it makes for a good part in the book, but to see it in real life, you're like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
So a Dracula video would not be complete without coming to the Dracula experience here in Whitby.
Welcome to the Dracula experience. happens. Walk carefully. Do not run. To run is a chase. Do not stop too long. That means the chase is over. Touch nothing. Touch nobody in here. And nothing will touch you. Dracula, much as the Dracula story takes this fiancé, Mina. After traveling to Castle Dracula in Transylvania, Jonathan Harker is held prisoner by the hypnotic charms of Dracula's female vampires. Meanwhile, Dracula plots to take over the soul of Jonathan's fiancée, Mina. After traveling to Castle Dracula in Transylvania, Jonathan Harker is held prisoner by the hypnotic charms of Dracula's female vampires. For centuries, Whitby Dracula plots to take over the soul of Jonathan's fiancée with red eyes. After traveling to Castle Dracula in Transylvania, Jonathan Harker is held prisoner by the wild, wretched red eyes. Dracula's servant waits for his master in a lunatic asylum, eating spiders and flies. Dracula's ship, Peter, is driven northwards by a storm which came from nowhere. The ship lies wrecked on Tater's sands, under the shadow of Whitby Abbey. The crew are all dead, including the captain, who, with his broken neck and head swaying, was lashed to the ship's wheel. Dracula leaps ashore in the form of a huge black dog. The centuries among the 199 steps in the graveyard near the ruins of Whitby Abbey. At the top of the steps, he lures Peter's friend Lucy to the tomb of suicide, and there recruits his legion of vampires. Ah, there you are. Desperate to bring her back using a new technique, a blood transfusion. Lucy retires to her coffin, neither dead nor alive. I'm dead. The swampy fight is Lucy. The Dracula still nowadays 20 minutes dead, and you can Dracula is now pursued relentlessly by vampires. Lucy retires to her coffin, neither dead with Dracula's alive. Quincy is looking and Quincy, Dracula's reign of terror is over.
What'd you think about it?
It was like a miniaturized haunted house almost. It was alright.
I mean, okay, so from what I've read online, and like some of the locals have told us, that it was here, you should try it, but it is kind of cheesy.
It's called the yellow book, they're all yellow.
But to me, I was expecting more cheese. I was expecting it to be super cheesy, but granted, it is very short, but it gets the job done for the most part of telling you what Whitby has to do with the story Dracula. I'd say if you're here in Whitby,
check it out.
You need to check it out.
Yeah.
If you're a Dracula fan, you need to go.
And it didn't cost an arm and a leg to get in there. I think from the four of us, it was like 18 pounds or 16 pounds, something like that. So it's not like you're paying, you know, 100 pounds a piece to go through something, you know, that's really short and cheesy. I mean, it was good.
So after Dracula has wreaked havoc on Whitby, he then goes to London. Therefore, Whitby, we're done with you.
Very nice here. I've enjoyed the trip. Enjoyed the town and the food and the scenery. Climate. It's been great. Good place. Highly recommend coming here if you're in the UK. Make it a point.
Just don't turn into a empire.
Catch you guys down the road at the next exit. Later.